I'm going to fly around the world.
It can't be done.
Well, let's change that.
If you do make it, you will be the first.
I'm a flyer, pursuing my passion for the fun of it.
Two-time Oscar winner Hilary Swank takes on the legendary Amelia Earhart. I'm A.O. Scott of the New York Times.
And I'm Michael Phillips of the Chicago Tribune. The soaring life and mysterious 1937 disappearance of Amelia Earhart was born for the movies. Amelia is the latest attempt to get that life on screen, and Hilary Swank is well cast as the Kansas-born aviatrix who became an ambivalent participant in her own Depression-era celebrity. Here, she's just completed the first ever female transatlantic solo flight in 1932.
Excuse me, sir. Where am I?
In Gallagher's pasture. Where are you supposed to be?
When I left, I was aiming for Paris.
Oh, you missed, you know.
On the ground, Amelia focuses on two things: Earhart's affair with fellow pilot and well-connected Washington politico Jean Vidal, played by Ewan McGregor, and her marriage to publisher and public relations pioneer George Putnam, played by Richard Gere. Here, before Earhart's final flight, she and Putnam engaged in a long-distance conversation fraught with enough foreshadowing to cast the entire planet in shadow.
I'll be in Honolulu on the 3rd. And with you in Oakland on the 4th of July, okay?
Don't keep me waiting.
I won't dare.
After the 4th, we're going home.
Amelia is grounded by a prosaic, by-the-numbers script determined to boil a wild ride down to a routine checklist of accomplishments. I wish this film had taken more of a cue from the way Earhart apparently really did live her life, fully and unpredictably. It's a good cast, it's a great subject, but sadly, you can skip it, Tony. This is a disappointment, you know?
It really is.
Should have been better.
And I'm very sad to say that I also think that you should skip it, because there's great potential here. There are three wonderful actors. You know, Richard Gere, who's capable of doing great inventive things. Ewan McGregor, who can be quite lively and fun, and Hilary Swank, who can be a wonderful actress, can really get inside a character and open it up. But in this case, she just doesn't do that. It's like you're reading some biography for kids that you'd find in you know, a 5th grade classroom.
Yeah.
Amelia Earhart, you know, pioneer of flight. It's right. That sort of stiff and kind of airbrushed.
Yeah, I would argue with you on Swank, though, because I think she's awfully good in the right role, but I don't know if she's ever an actress who brings kind of the subtext to something that isn't on the page, and this part is so kind of flatly written in the script.
Well,
Swank's not the one to kind of bring something extra to it.
Well,
you know?
but I just don't think she has a chance. I mean, because the characters are trapped in these annoying period accents, talking as if, you know, she's trying to do some kind of Katharine Hepburn thing and sort of, you know, oh, George, oh, Jean. and there's too much music. I mean, the score by Gabriel Yarra just overwhelms this movie. It's poured on like ketchup.
I think you got, look, Amy Adams did Amelia Earhart in Night at the Museum, too. Not quite the same sort of film.
But as a screwball heroine, which makes sense if you think about the 1930s, if you think about a love triangle, if you just think about an exciting life. Why does such an exciting life make such a dull movie? All right, on to the next one. These are boom times for teenage vampires. The next installment in the popular Twilight series is coming soon, directed by Chris Weitz. In the meantime, his brother, Paul, is trying to launch a new movie franchise based on the popular Cirque du Freak young adult horror novels. The Vampire's Assistant stars John C. Reilly, playing against type as a mysterious fellow named Crepsley, shown here initiating Darren, played by Chris Massolia, a newly fledged vampire.
So what will I be able to do? Can I, like, turn into a bat and stuff?
No, that's bull. Now hop on my back. We're going to flit.
We're gonna what?
Just shut up and hop on my back.
The vampires, who are nice, if a little bit eccentric, have enemies called the Vampanese, and a sinister fat guy named Mr. Tiny is trying to start a war between the two groups. There's also a circus full of freaks run by Crepsley, including Salma Hayek as a sexy bearded lady and Patrick Fugit as a snake boy. Threaded through all of it is Darren's relationship with Steve, his high school pal, who, in the realm of the undead, becomes his nemesis.
I hate you. I hate you! I became a vampire to save you, Steve. Thanks. That's enough, boys.
Cirque du Freak, the vampire's assistant, has a great cast and a lot of interesting ideas, but it's awfully hectic. Weitz has trouble blending teen angst, dark humor, and the gothic elements of the story. I'm curious about the sequels that are coming up next, but this one is a rent-it.
Yeah, Tony, I'm still reeling from the fact that you're taking it easier on this film than you did on Amelia. I mean, this is one of the worst films of the year, honestly.
Come on.
No, look, there's more than one way to confuse an audience, and this film, not just throwing a lot of narrative confusion and all this new vampire mythology at you in ways that are just absolutely clumsy as storytelling, but you got a tone that wobbles all over the place between like out-and-out fright and horror and camp, and you know, you got Willem Dafoe doing Vincent Price,
but I thought
the whole thing. It's like, how many movies am I watching?
Yeah,
here?
but I liked a lot of those movies. It was trying to go in all kinds of different places. It didn't get to every single one of them, but the kind of creepy teen gothic, almost like David Lynch for kids that's in some of these scenes, I think it worked really well.
Don't sully the memory of David Lynch.
The memory is...
Lynch is not dead anyway, so I hope he makes many more films. But, you know, you got a director here who honestly is flummoxed about how to even deal with an action sequence. And I think what you're looking at is a movie that's based on the first 3 in a series of 12 books. You know, already you're running into problems there. You are breathlessly trying to cram in all these story elements, and you're stuck with a very dull leading actor. I mean, honestly, most movies don't flounder on the casting. This male actor in the lead...
I really didn't think so. I was interested enough in this world that I want to see more of it.
You're a cockeyed optimist on those sequels. I say skip it. Coming up next, it's The Days of Wine and Neurosis. Uma Thurman stars in Motherhood.
Oh, this?
And later, let the debate begin. We're counting down the top 10 movies of the decade.
It's my birthday tomorrow. I'm gonna have a triple layer cake with purple frosting.
You are brave. How so? Just to live as you do, you know, the stairs, the children, the car, the dog.
Motherhood gives upper middle class whining a bad name, and we'll have to wait for some French film or other to restore our faith in that pastime. Eliza, played by Uma Thurman, is a sometime writer and full-time mother living with her husband in the West Village, around the corner from her kids' charming elementary school. Wow, so much to complain about already. Eliza's shopping for her daughter's birthday party while getting her motherhood-themed blog on track, but my God, the aggravations.
But that's not her name.
Yes, it is. It says it right here on the order form, Clara.
Her name is Clara.
Well, our froster's on a cigarette break, so...
Well, can't someone else fix it?
You have to admit it's your own fault. If you had named her Sophie or Ella, you wouldn't be having this problem, but you gave her an Edna name.
And you think having to park and repark your car in Greenwich Village is a picnic? It is not.
I'm just trying to raise 2 kids in this godforsaken city that's the shadow of its former self.
Did you ever think about maybe moving out to the suburbs?
Like we could afford the taxes.
The writer-director Catherine Diekman made an interesting picture 3 years ago called Diggers. This one, well, Thurman, like her co-stars Anthony Edwards and Minnie Driver, ends up overcompensating like mad for material that tries to pay heartfelt tribute to an every woman, but ends up honoring an every whiner. Skip it, I say.
Yes, skip it. Although I have to say, alternate side parking in New York is not a laughing matter. It's a very serious issue. But it's a kind of movie that it makes all New Yorkers look like whining, overprivileged, entitled flakes.
Right.
And part of the problem is that...
Do you have evidence to the contrary or no?
Well, no, some of my best friends are whining, overprivileged, entitled flakes. But that aside, Catherine Diekman, I don't think, made up her mind about how she was going to portray this character. Was this going to be a satire, or was it going to be a kind of a scruffy, heartfelt drama? And it ends up being a really bad hybrid. It goes
back to the question of tone, you know, which is the same thing. I had huge tone problems with Cirque du Freak.
Well, some vampires would have been a nice addition.
I would have gone for it, but yeah, and Uma Thurman, you know, from this film, you just would think has no instincts at all as an actress, and you know, clearly she's effective, tends to be more effective with the more exotic characters, and she doesn't really have the common touch with this movie's going for, but man, she just comes off like a flouncing amateur, and she's not. So.
Well, and she has to compensate, I think, for the problems of the movie's tone, so she just has to act all kind of crazy and sort of do the screwball things all on her own when the movie can't generate any kind of comic momentum or spark or fizz.
Yeah, and by the end, I don't know, I'm not anti-motherhood, but actually by the end of the film, I was anti-motherhood.
All right, well, next week, Michael will take on Apple Pie. But coming up next, the decade is almost over, but our list is just beginning. We're counting down the top 10 movies of the decade.
Big project. And on next week's show, the movie that has piqued everyone's curiosity, will review Michael Jackson's This Is It.
I feel so blessed that I can give the world that.
More than 5,000 movies have come and gone since the decade began, and Michael and I have each come up with 10 that we think will stand the test of time. Starting today and continuing over the next 9 weeks, we'll be counting them down. At number 10 on my list is $1 Million Baby. No American director has had a better run over the last 10 years than Clint Eastwood. Of all the great movies he's made, this is the one that stands out for me. Eastwood won a Best Picture Oscar for this simple, spare, potentially corny story about an aging boxing trainer named Frankie Dunn who takes on an eager young fighter played by Hilary Swank. She won her second Oscar for this role.
Mr. Dunn?
I owe you money.
No, sir.
I know your mama.
Thought you might be interested in training me.
I don't train girls.
People see me fight, say I'm pretty tough.
Girly, tough ain't enough.
$1 Million Baby is devastatingly sad, and it has an understated beauty, thanks to Tom Stern's cinematography, Eastwood's aching score, and the unadorned, gimmick-free way he tells the story. It's hard to believe that this movie came out only 5 years ago. It has the feeling of a classic that's been around forever.
Well, I think it's consciously trying to feel like a classic, but you mentioned potentially corny. I think this film fully realized that potential, because to me, all it is a well-acted melodrama with nothing else in it. I think the role that Hilary Swank's valiantly fighting to make into a three-dimensional human being is nothing but St. Joan of the Ozarks. He's done work as good as Letters from Iwo Jima this decade. Why this film? I don't get it.
Why this film? Because this film takes what is a conventional Hollywood story, takes, you know, one of the oldest genres in the book. This movie, in a way, could have come out in 1934 as easily as 2004, and it breathes new life into it. It's like watching a great musician perform a standard from the American songbook.
No. When you look at Unforgiven, A Perfect World.
Stop changing the subject.
You know, no. Bridges from Madison County. You want to talk about Korn transcended. You know, beautiful film. This is nowhere near there. So
I think you're wrong.
Not every director represented on my best of the decade list has the reputation, the resume, or, let's be honest, the erratic results of the creative force behind my number 10. But Steven Spielberg's Minority Report, released in 2002, is one of the director's great and most underrated achievements.
Okay, Jed, what's coming?
Red Ball, double homicide, 1 male, 1 female. Killer's male, white, 40s.
Time frame?
13 minutes.
All right, Howard Marks. Where are you?
That's, of course, Tom Cruise, whose supernatural intensity is very well suited to the role of a detective in Washington, D.C.'s pre-crime division. Now, thanks to a trio of psychics, murders in this world can be prevented in most cases just before they happen. Minority Report throws us headlong into that world that has gone way past George Orwell. And with Minority Report, Steven Spielberg's made what I think is the coolest, coldest film noir to come out of contemporary Hollywood. This film, a second time, it holds up beautifully, I think.
It's beautiful. It goes a little soft at the end. It kind of lets this world off the hook in a way that undermines some of what's come before. But the visual texture is extraordinary. I mean, there are very few filmmakers who can blend CGI special effects with classical cinematic techniques quite as well as Spielberg can.
And this is a very morally unsettling world. You know, Spielberg, I think, is not just enamored with the technology. He's really kind of warning us against the excesses of it.
What's great too is that he immerses us in it rather than kind of explain everything. It's all the exposition is on the run. It's a chase movie.
Yeah, I agree. Last half hour, not great.
It's a Spielberg movie.
I don't care. I don't care. The best of it is terrific. So, both $1 Million Baby and Minority Report are available on DVD.
Think we got it wrong? Tell us about it. Go to atthemoviestv.com or twitter.com/atthemoviestv and give us your pick for the best movie of the decade. And tune in next week when we'll reveal our number 9 choices.
Coming up next, will Astro Boy turn your children into robots?
He has the most advanced systems ever created. A perfect robot.
Your boy?
Yes, sir.
Ever read the Japanese comics known as manga? No? Well, if you recall a little story called Pinocchio, the central idea in the new animated feature Astro Boy will ring a bell. On the other hand, Pinocchio never had flaming jets coming out of his feet, or these.
What? I got machine guns in my butt?
Yes, he does, and I find them somewhat disturbing. The movie's set on a garbage-strewn planet Earth, and above it, on the floating kingdom of Metro City. Now, when a scientist, voiced by Nicolas Cage, loses his son in a freak accident, he creates Astro Boy in his son's image. Astro Boy is voiced by Freddie Highmore. Throughout the movie, Astro struggles with his robot-human identity crisis in a world grimmer than the opening of WALL-E. Here, robots and humans are one civil war away from total destruction. Astro endures one pounding after another from a hunk of metal called the Peacekeeper, bad robot. Down on Earth, the poor robo-kids dragged into deadly gladiatorial battles against other robots. After a while, I was like, what is this, the passion of the Astro Boy? Skip it. A pounding is how I felt.
Skip it. It made me miss Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. I just hoped some spaghetti would fall out of the
I like
sky.
that film okay. I like that film.
I didn't like one, and I like this one even less. I just felt like this was a mistranslation almost, trying to combine the slightly sinister, cold world of Japanese anime with the warm, sentimental, fuzzy, bouncy world of Hollywood kid animation, and it just didn't work at all.
And I find the comic relief no less punishing than the punishments this guy actually takes. And some people are reluctant to take their children to something like Where the Wild Things Are because they've heard it's too dark. You know, they'll throw any 5-year-old in front of a movie like this because it looks like fun, sort of inoffensive, but
and
I found it very grim.
Well, there's some grim, weird, creepy stuff. I mean, the kid dies, you know, and his father brings him back to life or builds a robot to replicate his lost son. I mean, that's very...
They don't know how to sell this material.
No. Next movie. Remember the blaxploitation pictures of the early 1970s? If not, Black Dynamite is here to remind you. Directed by Scott Sanders, it stars Michael Jai White as the title character, a righteous brother taking on the man and making time with the ladies. Here he chats up Gloria, a neighborhood crusader who can't resist Black Dynamite's game.
Let me guess. You're one of these Tom Slick brothers think you can get by on good looks, a wink and a smile, huh?
I don't know about Tom Slick, but thank you for the compliments.
That's not what I meant. Not that I think that you have good look. I mean, you know these guys with their...
winks and smiles.
Black Dynamite is less a parody than an insanely detailed attempt to recapture every element of the blaxploitation style, from the awkward zooms and choppy edits to the stiff acting, pulpy action sequences, and pseudo-political attitudes. If this were a 6-minute-long YouTube clip, it would be genius, but there's not enough here for a feature film. If you want to taste the seedy glories of this kind of cinema, rent Truck Turner or Trouble Man or Shaft in Africa. But skip this one.
Especially Shaft in Africa. Look, you know, this film actually, for me, it's a rented. And even though I think it's got maybe 20, 30 really good minutes, or good enough minutes, you know, what it really has for me are two things I really defensively. Great title tune, I mean, almost as good as The Heyday, and an action sequence that comes to the climax where you have Richard Nixon with nunchucks squaring off against our hero. And to me, that even though it sounds funnier than it plays, between the song and the nunchucks, I was happy.
I wish it were enough, because I just feel like this is something that's been gone over so many times before. These movies were already self-parodies in a way back in the 1970s, and there's just not enough there. But also opening this weekend in limited release is Lars von Trier's Antichrist, starring Willem Dafoe. It's already shocked audiences and divided film critics at festivals around the world. We have an exclusive review on our website. Just go to atthemoviestv.com.
In fact, I'm still shocked and divided about that film, but tough week, you know, not a lot we can recommend.
Not much.
But, Tony, there is a lot of good stuff out there in the theaters. Thank goodness. I'm going to tell everybody about it in my 3 to See coming up next.
Closed captioning for At the Movies is sponsored by...
What makes a Hershey's bar pure? Pure togetherness. Pure friendship. Pure delicious chocolate. Pure Hershey's.
Hotel provided by Park Hyatt Chicago. Chicago's award-winning hotel and luxury dining experience. Located in the heart of Chicago's Magnificent Mile on Water Tower Square.
Okay, my 3 to See this week, fearsome scenarios all, but you can handle them. Number 3, Zombieland, a comedy that wears its heart, its gags, its gag reflex, and its entrails on its sleeve. It's one of the funniest movies of the year. Number 2, A Serious Man, an unusually well-scripted black comedy from the Coen brothers. And number 1, no surprise here, it's Where the Wild Things Are, which is provoking everything from sobs to puzzlement to walkouts to raves among audiences nationwide. I love that wide-ranging response, but more than that, Tony, I just plain love that movie.
You and me both. That's it for now. Go to atthemoviestv.com or twitter.com/atthemoviestv to give us your picks for the best movie of the decade.
We'll leave you with a recap of this week's show. Join us next week when we'll continue our countdown of the top 10 movies of the decade. Plus, we'll review Michael Jackson's This Is It. And until then, we'll be at the movies.
What superfruit is taking America by storm? Sunsweet Ones.
Prunes? Wow. It's packaged by itself. That's fantastic.
This is delicious. Sunsweet Ones, the remarkable superfruit.
Activon Ultra Strength for powerful pain relief. A convenient applicator means no messy creams. Activon, applied directly where it hurts for joint pain, muscle pain, arthritis, and backache.
The Nesquik Guide to Health and Happiness. Stay loose. Nesquik, come to your happy place.
Need contact lenses? 1-800-CONTACTS delivers name brand contact lenses for less, right to your door. 1-800-CONTACTS. We deliver, you save.